It brought back out of me the inner child that witnessed the classic trilogy for the first time. Welcome back, movie fans, to my spoiler-free review of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the long-awaited return of the quintessential adventure franchise, from the classic timeless trilogy to the fourth movie that happened with James Mangold taking up the reins from Steven Spielberg as we find Indy wrestling with fitting into a world that seems to have outgrown him. Indy must don his hat and pick up his whip once more to make sure an ancient and powerful artifact does not fall into the wrong hands. And like many of you watching this video, I grew up with the Indiana Jones original trilogy. It's one of those films that my dad introduced to me, and I've loved all those three films ever since. So as excited as I was coming into Dial of Destiny, I was also a little bit fearful because last time we returned to this franchise didn't work out so well. We also did not have Steven Spielberg helming the film. But the more I thought about it and thought about it watching this film, if you are going to have anyone taking up the mantle from Steven Spielberg, James Mangold just feels like the perfect choice. Both of their filmographies are vast and rich, diving into different genres, different tones, different types of stories, and in all those different kind of movies, they both absolutely crushed it. And with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, James Mangold crushes it once again. He makes this film look so incredibly cinematic. He clearly loves and he clearly understands these movies and the magic that Spielberg brought into them. Mangold has such an incredible eye for immersive storytelling, bringing you into this world where every location just feels so lived in. And I'm sure they shot in green screens and in studios, but it feels real, where every set piece is constructed like a mini adventure all to itself within the larger scope adventure that is the film as a whole. And I miss Indiana Jones movies feeling this grand. But beyond that, beyond the surface, it's not just about bringing you into the world of adventure, into the world of Indiana Jones. What I was most afraid of in this film was that it would ignore the fact that Harrison Ford is old. Older at this point than Sean Connery was when he played his dad in The Last Crusade. And the film doesn't. Mangold embraces the veteran nature of Indiana Jones. He is old. He is not this young, scruffy-looking adventurer that goes out there for fame and glory anymore. He still loves adventure. Every time you get these moments to reflect on who Indiana Jones is, and you have Harrison Ford with that classic smirk of pure childlike joy on his face, you just feel warm in your heart. But this is a film that acknowledges that Indiana Jones has grown up, and that's what has always worked in the Indiana Jones movies. He can fight if he gets into trouble, but he is very human. He is a scrapper, and he always feels in way over his head. And this film is no different. Indiana Jones gets pushed into the adventure, but once he gets on that saddle, it's second nature to him. I love seeing an Indiana Jones that knows this is way too much for him, but history calling to him for him to escape into it, it's also stronger than him. He cannot help it. And what makes it work so well is that the film is very much an introspection on Indiana Jones, a reflection on what he has done through his adventures, through his life, and how that has informed who he is right now. I love that in this film, he calls out that he's tired, he's old, he has had his heart ripped out literally, he has been a victim of voodoo as he's climbing these cliffs, but he still loves to do it. And Harrison Ford is so on point here. It feels like he's been living as this character, and he's tired and he has seen way too much of too many things, but he loves doing it. This is who he is. And while the world might not appreciate it, he still loves it. And we get to understand better why Indiana Jones loves it so much, why he wants to escape into history so much, why he sought out the fame and glory in his early days. So even though Indy is old at this point, Ford and Mangold's direction bring all those jovial personality traits that we know and love from this character. The quips, the sarcasm, the thinking on his feet, the general smartness of Indiana Jones, how he's always the smartest person in the room, and his love for what he does, for being on an adventure, for history. But with the maturity of this film, Mangold also brings a certain sadness to it, a certain melancholy that has Indy reflecting on his actions through this film, on his actions in the past. And there's just something tremendously refreshing about it. And still having all those familiar elements, but interpreted in a different manner. We have a hero looking at himself in a different manner. And there's just something so compelling to where Indiana Jones finds himself, where he can still throw a punch, but most people will be stronger than him. But nobody can ride a horse as good as him. Nobody can think on his feet as good as him. Nobody knows these tunnels and these caves as good as him. But Indiana Jones feels now more personable and more layered than he ever has before. So it's a big adventure, but it's the one that feels closest to Indy's heart. It's the one that interrogates him the most, or makes him interrogate himself the most. It is genuinely one of the best performances Ford has ever given, and a real testament to Mangold's abilities as a storyteller to be able to pick up this magical mantle from Steven Spielberg and be able to mature it into something new without compromising the magic, the timelessness, and keeping intact all the things that we love about this character, all the things that we love about this world, while bringing in all these new characters, all these new adventures, and all these new elements that have us reinterpreting and re-understanding this world and make Indiana Jones a far richer character than he's ever been. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, too, is spectacular in this. She is all the things that Indiana Jones cannot be anymore, while feeling like a completely new character that doesn't exactly have that same moral compass like Indy in his early days didn't have. She brings something new into his life, something that he had long lost along the way, and she is so pivotal to his growth in this film, and a reminder why the world needs Indiana Jones. Mads Mikkelsen as well. He's playing a Nazi, and he's playing it so well. He fits right into this world as this maniacal, conniving, and strategist of a villain that plays such a great foil to this version of Indy, this gruff, older, tired Indy, but still has such a love for history and what history signifies to the world they live in. Because this is now a world where people are going to space. They don't care what you're finding in caves. They don't care what you're finding under the ocean. They want to go up there. They want to go out of this planet. And these are two people, Indiana Jones and Voller, that want history to be important. What they did for history, whether they've been through history, is important. And it's why Mikkelsen's motivations work so well in this film. I do wish his real motivations were revealed earlier in the film. I think they just leave it into way too late to go, oh, that's why. It's cool. But if we had revealed it earlier in the film, It could have developed a little bit more beyond just knowing. The one thing, however, that has never faltered throughout this entire franchise is John Williams' score. And we live in a world where in 2023, there's a brand new John Williams Indiana Jones score, and it's fantastic. It gave me goosebumps, and it fits so well into the maturity of this film, into the thematic elements of it, and how it explores Indiana Jones as a person. Because James Mangold manages to subvert everything coming into a film like this, where it offers the adventure but doesn't shy away from it, makes it part of the story, and it makes it part of this character's growth. It makes it part of his qualities, it makes it part of his flaws, as well as the other characters around him. As the world forgotten Indiana Jones, and what puts that so well into perspective, what makes Indiana Jones and us as the audience reflect on that, is not only the visuals, it's not only John Williams' score, but it's the fact that it opens with a classic Indy adventure when he was younger, where you have the aged Harrison Ford, and honestly, it looks flawless. Everything about these early set pieces in this opening sequence is phenomenal. I thought I was watching a Steven Spielberg movie because it has all that magic intact. There are literally two shots in this entire film where you notice something weird about the de-age. But in general, everything about the visuals really work. This film looks spectacular. Everything musically about the film works. Everything about the characterization of our hero works. And I love that we always see Indy diving into a world that is so much bigger than what he thinks it was, because as an archaeologist, he always wants to understand. He always needs answers. He's always looking for the science. And Indiana Jones is a spectacular franchise because there's all this mysticism that is unclear, that is vague, and is left to interpretation. Which is why, to me, the third act is the biggest issue I have with this film. Going into further explanation as to why would be going into spoilers for this film, and I don't want to spoil this film for anyone. But to me, the third act just gets a little bit too silly when you compare it to what the film was doing, the kind of story it was telling, and how it was telling it. There's a single moment where I wish the characters would have literally turned back. I think the third act manages to make it work emotionally for Indiana Jones, making him come to grips with certain decisions in his life, with how far he's come, what happened to him along the way. But I just thought this third act went too far. When it comes to the ending itself, amazing. There were tears in my eyes. But a certain decision in the third act just I couldn't agree with. This is certainly no Crystal Skull. Saying this is any worse or on the same level as Crystal Skull is beyond wild to me. The highs of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny are as high as the franchise has ever gone in the classic trilogy, and the lows are not nearly as low as what Crystal Skull seeped into. This is a spectacular return to form. I love that we have a new Indiana Jones movie that understands the legacy of its character and doesn't shy away from that legacy. There's a maturity in this film that Steven Spielberg just couldn't bring to it because of his proximity to the material. But it keeps the heart, it keeps the humor, it keeps the excitement, all the set pieces, Indiana Jones himself, Harrison Ford. I am so happy as an Indiana Jones fan. It brought back out of me the inner child that witnessed the classic trilogy for the first time. So as I dive into my final thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, it's time for you to start the conversation in the comments below. Did you grow up with this franchise? What is your favorite film in the Indiana Jones saga, including this one if you've seen it? And how excited are you for the Dial of Destiny? Anything and everything down there. And if you're enjoying this review, if you want to talk more movies than TV, this is the place to be. Consider clicking that subscribe button and you won't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. The wave of melancholy permeating all of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is both refreshing and haunting. All the defining elements we know and love are subverted in how they affect Indy thematically and emotionally. It's epic in scope, but intimate and even challenging in feel. I'm giving Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny an A minus. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to share your thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny in the comments below so we can continue the conversation. And big shout out to my channel members for always supporting the channel. And I'll be back very soon with more videos. So until the next one, love each other and love the movies.